Ever ready. We're born ready.
Ready.
So, welcome back to Talk with Rams. And there was a feature that we used to do on radio, and we had to take this feature forward because it was your favorite feature. The coaching class. And the very first episode of the coaching class brings the big coach in the house, Bulelani Balabala. What do I tell you about him? He's a presidential ambassador. He's a youth ambassador in the presidency. He's a businessman. He's a coach. He's a motivational speaker. He now builds small businesses. He runs something called tea. I love tea, my brother. I love tea.
Everybody loves tea.
Thank you for coming.
No, thank you so much.
Are you good?
For having me. I'm really excited.
You are on Talk with Rams. This is the very first podcast of Talk with Rams. So you come to the first.
No, this is
That's
amazing.
how special you are.
You look better on podcast than on camera.
Stop the tape! Mate, so I had earlier a conversation with Skinny Spoo.
Yes.
And I touched on his downfall and comeback. And I wanted us to focus on the power of comeback.
Yeah.
Because it's tough out there. It's tough for hustlers. Things go wrong. We invest in things, we try things, and business goes wrong. And sometimes people think, maybe I should just quit and dust off my CV and go away. How easy is it to come back?
I think just first and foremost, entrepreneurship is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
You are met with, I'll make an example, right, of a story I was telling someone on the way here. We have been following up on a payment for the past 9 months.
That money is not worth the same money it was 9 months ago.
No, it's not. We've incurred debt. We owe other service providers. And at the end of the month, you've got people that have served the time, and duly so. Your team members, your staff members, that literally have their hands out. They've served their time and are really looking for their value, which is their salary and their payment. But on the while, you are walking around with all these debts and all these bills. It becomes very difficult. And I think one of the biggest things that I've picked up that becomes a challenge is that I think even for me in my entrepreneurial journey is that I'd sit on all of these things, and you'd sit, and because of the fact that entrepreneurship in and itself is lonely, you carry this weight up until you get to a point where you become depressed. The doctor diagnosed me with chronic depression, I think about a year ago. And it was a shock to me because at that moment, in every question he was asking that was supposed to be answered in a negative, I couldn't pinpoint a thing. I thought I was fine, but I couldn't sleep. I'd spent 11 days without sleep. I couldn't sleep. I had to. So my cycle was drink sleeping pills on Monday. Tuesday, the dose was enough to put me to sleep. Wednesday, drink sleeping pills was literally an on and off. Purely because you're dealing with so much. And I think it's the dynamic over and above business of also you're a human being.
Yes.
So it's human tragedies, it's human losses, it's love, it's relationships, it's the ups and downs. So it becomes very difficult. But I was saying to someone, Bra Rams, that I believe that entrepreneurs are called into this because entrepreneurship, I could make an example and say entrepreneurship is like swallowing broken glasses, and you do that each and every day. Now, no sane person would want to cut themselves up each and every day unless they were called.
Yes, to cut themselves up once.
No.
Doing it every
you see a razor, you run.
Yes.
So I really just think, it's a calling, and the power of the power of coming back, because that's a beautiful thing, because that's you're highlighting.
Yes.
Because it's for every entrepreneur to know and to innately know what you're gonna fall. Right?
It's important to know you're gonna fall.
Because you see, I think that's the part that we try and hide away. That is why the glamour of entrepreneurship are the big cars. When I see Rams on stage, behind the mic, and he's doing his thing, and he's gifted and he kills it. Yeah. He's doing business, he's writing articles, he kills it. But that 1 hour or 2 hours that you are on stage is just a fraction of the hours you've had to fight, battles, you've had to push. So I really think, to me, yes, coming back is important, but the only way to get back is to realize that you are going to fall.
Yes.
And when you realize that you are going to fall, you start to then built-in triggers or rather defense mechanisms around you, so that when you know that you've fallen, what did you tell yourself before you fell?
Exactly. So for me, I say that, and you're the coach here, but when we have fallen, what are the lessons that we need to bring into the comeback? What are the things that we should look at? What is it that made me fall that I need to work on in my comeback? And my question to you is, what are the normal stupid things that we do that make us fall, that we should not carry them to the comeback?
So I think for me, I think the first one for me is simple. There are things we are doing, and there are patterns we've built. We know very well that they are unhealthy for us as human beings and even for our business, but yet we continue. You know you've got a client who's terrible at paying, but every time the client comes and they massage you, you start giving them the service, but you know that this one is not the right one or they don't pay. And I really think for me, and a much clearer breakdown or definition of that is, don't do or even repeat what caused you to fail in the first place, or that whatever causes you problems. The moment you see alarms, run away and move away. Don't even try and understand what's under the rock. So sometimes we hear snakes slithering under a rock, we're thinking, well, let me go and explore and open up. So the moment you lift up the rock, just know that whatever happens after that is purely out of your control.
Yes.
So I think then my advice to the entrepreneur is, spend time controlling things that you've got control over. The things that you don't have control over, that you can pick up as a slither from a mile away, move the heavens away from the thing. Stay away from the stuff and work within the confines of the things that you can control. And I think a second thing that becomes very important is, I think every entrepreneur needs to ask themselves, what could sink you tomorrow? Or what could sink you and your business the next month?
Yeah.
Is it SARS? Is it the fact that your payment cycles are 90 days, but you need to pay suppliers within 30 days, and you're always chasing your tail because there's never money and there's never cash flow for you to do anything? Is it how you treat people? Is it your leadership style?
Is it your own people?
Is it your own people? Because I think one, I used to tease SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
When anyone's ever said to me, you need to do a SWOT analysis, I just laughed. Who does SWOT analysis? That is so primary school.
Yeah, that is so
exactly.
1930.
But in being able to do that, you're identifying opportunities, gaps. You're identifying where are your strengths, where am I the strongest, and how do I navigate within this particular path. And I think for me, the third biggest is not learning from the fall. And I think for me, that becomes the worst thing.
Yeah.
Because glory becomes, you see the beautiful thing about glory is glory. You might not remember this, but it was a good 3 years ago where you asked me, so mate, you want to come on to radio and do the show, what is the end goal? And I was, no. What?
I want to tell people to get things done. Eh?
No. And you were very clear about what is the end goal, because if you're not positioning yourself beyond the current desire, then you're not setting up the future. You're not setting up for your next come up.
You're living for the moment.
And I think for me it becomes testament, because this then is the testament of After the Radio, which is a much bigger platform because it's global now. And if I was not pushed into a position where I started to now think in that shift manner, the manner in which you would have gone through years of experiences and developed, I might have still continued in the same loop and thought that was actual growth. But when actual growth is expanding and moving into different terrains.
Most of us as entrepreneurs, so we fail. I sell eggs and things go wrong. And what we do is that I then come back, because I feel it. I'm an entrepreneur. But next one, I'm going to sell caps. And I say, but now you're starting from scratch. Why don't you find out what went wrong with the eggs and improve on the eggs?
Yes. So I think to that, you're right. The biggest, I think one of the most important things to examine as well is, why are you giving up or why are you leaving? I was sitting with one of my mentors, and I say to him, you know what? The industry I have been in for years, I think it's time to leave. But the real depth of the conversation came out now when the question started rolling to say, why are you leaving? It almost seems like the businesses are doing well. That's not right. Yeah, no, it's not. Oh, okay. Are you focusing on the business? well, I'm working on this, so you're not focusing on the business. Now, here's the question. If you had to focus on the business, would it grow? Yeah, it would grow. Okay. So why are you BSing everyone? Why don't you just focus on the business? And that's the key thing, right? So sometimes as entrepreneurs, and even all the time, we need to decide, what are you going to focus on? Because then someone makes an example and says, well, but company X, Y, and Z has got pharmaceutical services, has got hygiene, has got cleaning, has got money services and all these services, and they're doing it all at once. No, we missed the plot. They conquered one segment. After conquering the segment and putting in the right systems and signing off the right take-up deals, they moved on to the next. They are not getting 100 rand from this one and 50 rand from this one and 40 rand from this one. So their attention is not split because there is a chief at each who is heading that machine. And I think it's always, and the thing about entrepreneurship, and I experienced this in my journey. Mm-hmm. So you sit in a classroom, right? Or you sit in a networking room and someone says, well, I'm making 100 million. Then you start to think, what am I doing with my life? And then someone says, I'm making 500,000 or 2 million. And you almost crave those industries, but you don't know what margins they're working in. You don't even know how they even operating business. You don't even understand that industry in itself, but you're already coveting. And I think another thing that becomes very important is it's important to stick to that particular journey. Why? Because there are lessons.
Yes.
Maybe you need to learn resilience. Mm-hmm. And because the fact that you're leaving from Amakwenya, you're going to selling CDs, from CDs, you're selling caps on the side of the road, from selling caps, you're selling boxes, you're selling foods. But there's one key thing that you keep forgetting, is you keep selling these different products in one market space to the same market. Why don't you just capture that market and sell a variety? And I really think this is where the business model canvas comes into play. Yeah. To say, have you stretched your model? And if you haven't, stretch it. And if it doesn't work, change the model, but don't change the product.
Yes. So, it still remains the same, whether it's podcast or different radio. We don't have the whole day. But I had a little chat with some people that were coached by you.
Oh, wow.
So last week, I had a little chat at the corner with these guys, and I was like asking them. So I asked this one fellow, you've been in business for 3 years. Would you say the business is growing? So I said, before you answer me, I want you to understand me. First, do you understand what you mean by growth in your business? Is it the money in the bank? Is it the network that you're growing? Is it the markets that you're getting into? Do you think your business is growing? Is it another fault that entrepreneurs have not defined yet what their true business is? Yeah. Because we panic because I only have 3 clients. But if the 3 clients put 3 million under the table, those are the 3 clients you should worry about. But of course, if the 3 clients don't put the money in, then your business needs more clients. But you can grow within the clients that you have.
So you're right. And I think defining the growth is critical. Yeah. Because you can't limit growth purely to revenue. Because, revenue in itself is vanity. Revenue is money that passes your bank account. It could literally go to overheads. It could go to your cost of sales. It could literally just go to paying off debts.
And nothing for you.
Exactly. And it was strange. So I'm entering into the same conversation with someone who's telling me that their asset value is worth an X amount of money, but they don't have money in the bank. They're not liquid, but they've defined their wealth in those assets that they're building up. And I think being able to understand the industry also becomes key in understanding the mass and the capacity. Yeah. So someone else then says, for instance, I'll make an example with an African gentleman who's in the cement space in Africa, one of the biggest cement companies in the whole entire Africa, right? The government at the time, the Nigerian government, had to come to him and negotiate with him to manufacture a certain amount of cement, purely because of the sheer size and capacity. So their asset value was at a dizzy and insane level, and they had never reached a point where they had ran at 100% capacity because there is not that much capacity in that particular country. But what they had positioned themselves as is, if anything bigger than, let's say, for instance, 1,000 cubic meters or 10,000, I'm not too sure, but the industry comes in, the only place they can go to is us, because we are the only ones that have the efficiency. And sometimes measuring growth is understanding, I want to get to a certain place in 10 years. Does that mean I need to have built a certain kind of brand for me to unlock that, and there won't be any money in the whole entire chain. And I really think we then need to then rewind back to looking at corporates that were literally built from the ground. We've got your Coca-Colas, we've got your Nestle's, which is a proud South African company. We've got Pick and Pay, we've got your Hewlett's. These are not overnight successes. They are overnight 100-year-old companies that have been running on the back of retrenchments or financial losses.
Big loans.
So I think if an entrepreneur is serious about building a corporation, then you must then be serious about playing the long game. That means that the conversation then with the clients then changes. Instead of me being happy about R1 million now, my question should be, how do I strategically work with you to get the R1 million every single year or over the next 2 years, so that I now become your strategic partner?
Yeah.
And that is where I was then now short-sighted in most of my dealings. So most of my dealings were, I just got that 3 million now, I just got that 100,000 now, I just got that 50,000 rand now. But you don't build value. You build value in being able to have a good book, and having a good book is now, I'm able to now get whatsoever assets because I've got written promises, I've got written take-up deals. But because the conversation is short-sighted, all I'm looking at is I'm going to be able to pay for my car now, so just give it to me now.
Yes. Also because I saw Rams driving that car and I want to drive a better car than him.
Exactly. And
she said.
And I think which goes back to this. Entrepreneurs, we need to delay the gratification. I used to think, and I mean, this is just my perspective.
Yeah.
I used to think that the glory was the big cars and the big houses. But I think the glory for an entrepreneur is the journey. Because it's
always in the run. It's not the tape.
No, it's
not
never
the tape that you touch.
It's never. Because literally, you think about it. So you make 100 million. I've never made it yet, but I'll get there. You make 100 million, you make 10 million, you make an X amount of money. The moment you do that, before you even hit that milestone, you've already been thinking about 100 million. Then before you even hit 100 million, you're already thinking about 1 billion. And that's a visionary archetype, right? That's totally different to the mindset that a businessman would have, right? Because you're always hungry. It's that insatiable hunger where you're chasing and you're looking for more.
So, Township Entrepreneurship Alliance. When is the next one and what is this about?
So we're excited. I mean, 2019, 22, 23 November, we're hosting our summit in Soweto. It's a 2-day summit. And I think the summit for us is it's a pure festival. It's an event. It's an exhibition event. It's a day where entrepreneurs from different walks of life come together. They network, they meet, they get to engage. They get live interviews on stage. And I really would love for us to have something like this on stage. I think
we should have something like this on stage. Yeah?
This would be different.
Okay, we'll work on it.
I think it would be great. I mean, tea is open to all entrepreneurs, all walks of life. Join us for tea. Come as you are. We open for you. You've
been an amazing brand with that. When you started, I thought, what is this bugger doing? My brother, always wonderful having you. Where do they find you?
It's simple. I'm at bulelani.co.za. All my social media platforms is Bulelani Balabala or simply at Bulelani Bala. Or just simpler, get things done.
Get things done. He's the coach.
Thank you so much.
He was the very first one in studio. We shall have him 1 million more times to come. Do not miss this. Buddy, thank you very much. Of course.
Thank you.
Just drop us the money.
Thank you. That was nice.